Officer at True Space, and here today you are in for such a treat. Welcome to Coffee Conversations. Our guest today is someone I have been a fangirl for a long, long time. So I am just so excited on this Friday to get to talk to Makisha. Welcome, Makisha. How are you?
Good. How are you, Stacey?
I'm doing great. It is such an honor to get a chance to interview you and let more people know about the amazing work you're doing. I always love to take it on back before we go forward. So we got to start and go back a bit and talk about your first job and now your current job.
My
Oh no. Hold on, pause. I think that okay, you kind of cut out. Go for it. Your first job was
okay. Can you hear me now?
I can. Good old technology. I have such a love-hate with it.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So my first job was, I think it was McDonald's.
Nice. Yeah. My husband's too.
Yeah. So I was 14, and um, I had just moved to Colorado, and yeah, that was my first job here in New York. I grew up in Harlem, and in New York, it was kind of like frowned upon to work at like a fast food restaurant.
Yeah.
So you kind of didn't want to do that, or like to work in the grocery store or packing bags or whatever. But when I moved to Colorado, it was just like, I'm just getting to this money.
Exactly. And 14. Most people don't start jobs until they're like 15 or 16. How were you able to pull that one off? I'm impressed.
Uh, I don't even remember, but I do remember it was a challenge. It was interesting. I think
Yeah.
there were work permits back then or something, or maybe somebody I knew somebody that knew the manager. I believe
There.
like my brother-in-law, somebody worked there already. I don't remember. We made it happen
Well,
though.
well, you were a go-getter from a young age. And before we got on, you were even sharing that at 9 you won a speaking award. I'm blown away.
Yeah, that I've been speaking because my grandmother and aunt kind of raised me in the church, and so that
Mhm.
was really the place where I did a lot of speaking. And got practice at it. And then that award that I won was for reading a poem called I Am the Black Child, um, during Black History Month.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And that ties really lovely into, and what are you doing today? Tell us about your amazing business that you're growing and building.
Yeah, so I'm the founder and head business coach at Sistahbiz, and it's a learning community and a planning hub, for Black women entrepreneurs. And our focus is to help Black women entrepreneurs with mastery of their numbers and crafting strategic plans.
It is such a cool community and platform. And before we like get into the nuts and bolts of all the cool things you're doing, what was the inspiration for starting it? How, when, and how did you begin this awesome organization?
Yeah, so the first point of inspiration was I got fired from a six-figure job. It was quite traumatic.
I would
The
imagine.
experience in the job was traumatic, and then the firing, being that I can be a little bit type A and perfectionist, made it that much harder.
Yeah.
Um, but there was a lot of trauma associated with like workplace trauma and racial trauma in that experience. And so
Yeah.
the first motivation was like, I'm never going back to working for someone else. And
Good
so
for
I
you.
started doing consulting and doing that work. And as I started to do that work and have success, other women started to reach out and say, can you coach me? Can you help me get my stuff off the ground? I've been through a similar story as you. And so it turned into a community. Well, it started with me just coaching two or three people out of my home.
Yeah.
Then they
Oh,
started
wow.
doing other people. And so then it turned into 10 and 15. And I just remember being in my living room with like 20 women one night. And I was like, it's kind of time to do something else with this. I need to get up out of my living room. But but yeah, so
Yes.
it grew, and now we're in 28 states, and we have a turnkey curriculum and an online platform called The Suite, and all the things.
All the things. It's amazing. And, initially you have both a nonprofit arm and a for-profit arm. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Tell us
Mhm.
more about how that evolution and the difference between the two.
Yeah, when I first started out coaching, I had a consulting firm that was a for profit, and I was just, helping a couple ladies on the side. They couldn't afford my price rate, so it was just sort of a labor of love. And then
Yeah.
as more women started to come, I started to realize that I wanted to really do the work and impact the community, but I knew that the average Black woman is bringing in, founder is bringing in about 27K a year in their
Oh,
business.
wow. Okay.
So they can't afford high ticket coaching services. And
Right.
so I really, started the work of reaching out and finding sponsors. And I didn't necessarily want to start a nonprofit, but a lot of funders were like, well, if we can write this off, if you have a C3, we'll support this. And that's how the nonprofit was born.
Yeah.
And as the nonprofit grew and funder relationships grew, and, the politics of nonprofit began to take over, I realized it was time for me to, like, now that I have the data,
Yes.
have the outcomes, I've grown the community, it's time for me to take this back to the for-profit side, simply because the nonprofit side is so restrictive and
Yeah.
so bureaucratic, that I felt like I want to do this work. I don't want to write grants all day. I want to do this work. I don't want to talk to foundations all day. And so I want to build a for-profit where it can support the nonprofit work and pay for the nonprofit work as an anchor funder, versus having to chase philanthropic dollars and relationships all day and kind of jump through government agency hoops and all the things.
Yeah, which really detracts from the amazing things you're able to do. And I think a lot of women, when they start, they're doing a social impact, awesome organization. And it really is this push pull. Do I do nonprofit? Do I do for profit? Because there really is pros and cons to both. So it's
Yeah.
interesting that you've navigated both of those. And
Yeah. Well, what
navigated
I see is a lot of women that a
can't
lot of women.
go there.
Yeah, I'm going there. I'm going there. I see a lot of
I love
women,
you.
uh, uh, selling for-profit services to nonprofit clients, and then they want to know why the clients can't pay. When
Oh,
your
that's
clients can't
interesting.
afford you, you need a nonprofit or it's a hobby. One or the other.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
that's interesting. Give us an example. So you're saying a lot of women will have a for-profit and try to sell to a nonprofit.
No, they have a for-profit and they try to sell their services to what I call nonprofit clients who can't afford you.
Got it.
And
Yes.
so you're trying to figure out why your business isn't making money. It's because your bleeding heart is trying to sell services to a community that can't afford you. That's not a for-profit venture. That's a
Right.
nonprofit venture or a hobby or a community service project.
Yeah. And not that those things are bad, but being clear on
Yeah,
who you are and what
exactly.
you're trying to do is so
That,
important,
if you
instead of
really
trying to
want to
be
do
both.
that, that's what I did. If you really
Yeah.
want to do that, get a board, start a nonprofit. Just make sure you want to do it, because it's a lot to that. But there are ways to do that. It's just that you're trying to, do apple stuff with an orange.
Right. No, that's a really good point. And more recently, you did get out there and you raised capital for your for profit, which is a huge feat. I mean, what is that statistic? 2-3% of women are able to raise capital.
Point to Black women. Point to
Wow. So that is a
percent.
huge feat.
Yeah.
And, obviously a disgusting stat. So I'm glad that you were able to overcome that. What do you think helped you to overcome that? Or how was that, getting out there and
Yeah.
raising it in such a not a great environment? What
So
did
it
you
took a
face and
long
how was
time.
it? Yeah.
So first thing I will say is that here's the thing about this conversation. I'd like to have this conversation in a very real way, in which people are not, um, you know, misled to thinking that it's something that it's not. It's not fun.
Yeah. Good for you. Not at
It
all.
takes forever. If you're Black, it takes even longer.
Yeah.
If you're a Black woman, it takes even longer. And
Yeah.
so it took me 3 years to raise the dollars I was trying to raise. Yeah, 3 years. I had that app on the shelf for 3 years, trying to push it to get funding. And so I just like people to know that. Like, I want to keep it open
Yeah.
to the buck. Like, and so I think for me, the things that really helped me is that I was doing the work before I started raising money in a way that informed the business model, so that I had
Mm.
less to learn. A lot of my learning curve around my audience, my market, my product have been tested out in the nonprofit arena for years. And so my curriculum, I knew it worked. I knew it got results with my audience.
Yeah.
Where there was some learning curve was in the app. I had never built an app before. Lord have mercy.
Well, don't worry, we'll go down that path in a minute. What
And
kept
so,
you Yeah. What kept you going during those 3 years? I mean, I know a lot of people that would just be like, "Oh, I'm done. This is ridiculous. There's no way I can do it. This is taking too long. How do I keep going?"
Because I know I've been called.
Yes.
So I
Say
wake
more
up
about
every
that.
day. It doesn't matter whether I want to do it or not. I've been called, and I'm not going to stop until I fulfill my assignment.
Yes. I think that is so true because entrepreneurship is not easy, and having that like having that deep rooted knowledge of this is what I'm meant to do and this is why
Yeah.
I'm going to keep trucking along on the bad days. Oh, that's amazing.
When you
And
feel you when you're walking in your purpose and you know that what you're doing is supposed to have an impact on the world, and that some person, some community is waiting for you to do your work so that they can do their work, and so that they can be enriched, their lives can be enriched. Like, you keep going. Like, that's a motivator. It is definitely very hard, but that is the number one driver for me, is that I deeply believe that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I don't care who else doesn't believe it's gonna work.
yeah, no, I definitely, and you've shown that day after day. I mean, I've watched you since 2018, and I know you were doing this before then, but I've been a fan from afar, watching you kill it and really grow and continue to prove how amazing you are. And before we jumped on this, you and I started talking about capital, and that there's this message in the entrepreneur world that you have to raise money and get out there and raise money. And, as we're talking about, it's harder than anyone realizes. Takes longer, it's harder, and it's a full-time job and can really be a distraction. And I love what you were sharing with me before we jumped on. Can you say it again, Makisha, what we were talking about in terms of to raise money or not to raise money?
Yeah, I just think that raising money in the VC world, in the angel investor world, in the world where, it's very popular right now to say, I'm going to do $1 million close, or that kind of thing. Um, People don't understand, like, a couple things I learned. I learned that a lot of founders that are raising, once they raise, they get stuck raising forever. Like, they're in this perpetual state of the next raise to get something done. And when you're in a race, it takes a lot of your capacity and time. That
Mhm.
is time that you're no longer putting into running a sustainable, healthy business. And
Right.
so if you have to raise and raise and raise, it is very difficult to also build a sustainable and healthy business. That's not the case for everybody. And sometimes the chips fall and you're like, you got it, you nailed it. But keeping in mind that that scenario is the scenario that is usually what they call the unicorn scenario, where you see that
Mhm.
accelerated growth and it all works out. And the whole system is designed for one person out of 10 to succeed.
Yes. Yeah.
And most of us are in that other nine. And so I
Right.
just think it's really important to think about what you want out of a raise and how long you're going to do it, and like what success looks like for you. You've got to be clear about that, and then just think about success not being the raise, because once
Yeah.
you do the raise, then all the funders want you to promote and put that information out there, and then everybody sees, oh, you've raised $1 million, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You haven't built a successful business yet. Don't
Right.
clap yet. I'm still working over here. I'm over here trying to drive traffic to this app. Like, I got data that I gotta produce, and
Yeah.
KPIs that I gotta meet before I can, like, say that I'm running a sustainable business. And I'm really also not a big fan of, like, this idea of accelerated growth. Um, where VCs are benefiting from one person who has this, like, insanely accelerated growth, whereas the other groups are, not poured into to contribute to the economy. They just kind of go away, I guess, in a lot of cases. And some of them have things that I consider, they have elements that I do consider success. Like, even if you aren't a $50 million business, if you're a $2 million business, you still have reached a statistic that a lot of businesses never reach. Um,
Right.
and so, like, that's success. And so I just think knowing what success looks like for yourself and for your company and for the people who you work with and the people who you serve should come first. And then
Yes.
you should really be clear about, like, understanding what the raise means, and how that will impact the future of the company in terms of future raises and all of that stuff. There's just a lot to it that
Yeah.
people don't tell you about, and that they don't talk about because they're so busy publicizing this, like, big raise.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that's hopefully what resonated with you about TrueSpace, right? One of the things I love is that we really talk about predictable growth over fast growth. There's this huge narrative out there about grow as fast as you can and raise all this money and, find your magic bullet and all those things. And at the end of the day, that's just where companies go to die, right? And so I am so proud that TrueSpace talks about predictable growth and really about, building out all your foundations and your processes before you go raise. Not that you can never raise, but know where you're going to put that money and how you're going to put it so you can build it predictably. And so I'm not surprised that TrueSpace, spoke to you. I was so honored. Couple months, what was that, December, November, whenever it was, we did a roundtable at TrueSpace. And Makisha, when you said yes to come to that roundtable, I was like, woo! As soon as you're in the room, I know it's going to be a great room. And then the fact that you left interested in joining our community, I can't tell you how happy that was for me. How's it been? Love to hear what made you join TrueSpace. Not that this is meant to be a TrueSpace commercial. I swear we'll get back to her story, but I can't resist.
No, I think the value system, I share the value system. The things I've been talking about, you're absolutely right. I was hearing Charles talk about them, and I knew that I was in the right place because he was talking about my values. I care about Main Street. I don't really give a shit about the unicorn. Can I curse on these?
Yeah, totally. It's fine. It's
cool. I always say I don't care about the unicorns. I care about the bees and the beavers. They pollinate and they contribute to the ecosystem in a positive way. And that's our Main Street. That's our mom and pops. And that is who is the bedrock of this country's economy. And we keep tossing them to the side like we shouldn't be investing in them, like they're not the greatest investment we can make in the economy when we are. And so I felt like he was speaking my language, and he was also speaking about something that is really important to me, which is I had just finished asking the question, like putting out there in the universe. I was looking at my own model and I was like, how do I get the model to 10 million? Like I'm missing something. How do I get there? And like, am I doing all the right things to get there? And so his diagnostic tools and his approach to like his pathway to figuring that out is really sophisticated and data driven in a way that I appreciate.
Yeah, no, it's been such an honor to have you in the community. And speaking of hitting 10 million, I definitely see that happening with your new platform. Talk about what it's been like you're obviously amazing at community building, pulling women together, helping, curriculum, all those things. An app, technology is a very different beast. What was that like for you, kind of taking on this new adventure?
Yeah. So what had happened was um, we had been running live boot camps and coaching live and virtually since 2018. The pandemic came, we went and we did a lot of virtual work, and we got approached by a UX firm that was like, we want to build a prototype for your company, like, and just talk to your members and see what it would look like. What would they want to see in an app that supports the work you do? So the reason I say that first is because it's important to know that the app has always been nothing more than a tool that empowers us to do what we were already doing, but do it faster, better, in a scalable way. And so they brought in 40 of the women in our membership, and they had like 60 to 90-minute interviews for each of them. And they
Wow.
taped them. Yeah, it was a pretty extensive process. And they asked them a lot of questions about their pain points and their experience and the jobs they have to do and their experience as a Black woman entrepreneur and their experience as Sistahbiz, whether they were a member in the paid community or a member of the nonprofit services or just in our Facebook group. We had a variety of people telling us this is what I would want to see in an app. And so from there, they gathered sort of the 11 top trends and what their pain points and needs were. And then we built an app around that. That's how you build technology.
Well, I would push back that that's how you build a business, right? When people are trying to grow a business, they so rarely are talking to the customer and they're just thinking about their own pain points and their own problems, right? Good
Right.
for you for taking the time to not just talk to one or two, but I think you said 30 or 40 of them.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
agree.
impressive.
I think that's right. Like it's how you build a business. But I think a lot of times when people build apps and technology, they
Mhm.
emphasize they're tech centric instead of, like you're saying, customer centric. And
Yeah.
so they're thinking about how do I build this amazing technology? They're not thinking about how do I build this amazing community and let technology power it up. And
Oh, I
so,
like that.
you know what I mean? And so, like,
Yeah.
actually, True Space talks about that too, like the
Yeah.
importance of making sure your resources are, aligned with what you're trying to do and who you're trying to serve. And
Yeah.
so that was the first thing that we did. So, and then the second thing that I think I learned is you have to learn, even if you're not a tech person, a CEO may not be a tech person. They may not be a financial person. They may not be a product development person. They may not be a marketing person. But you have to become literate enough to manage those teams and speak those languages so that you know how to give guidance on how your vision connects with their job.
Yeah. How
And
do
so
you manage something you don't understand?
exactly. And how can they execute on your vision if you can't speak if you're not speaking the same language about how to execute on that vision? And so
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people depend on the tech team to decide what the vision is for the app or the tech, when in fact they don't understand your customer experience enough and don't have the same level of understanding of your customer and your product and your experience to really do the specifications justice. You should really be drafting those specifications, and then the tech person can build on that and ask the right questions and fine tune it. And so in the beginning, when I did the first MVP, it was like a shit show. And the dev
Good for
shop,
you for being honest, because I think, someone as impressive and as successful as you, hearing you say that will probably give other
oh, it
women
was
courage.
horrible. And the dev shop that we went through, two dev shops that didn't know what they were doing. We went through a couple of CTOs, and we finally got to the team that could actually build the custom app that we were trying to build. And
Mhm.
along that journey, I was growing as an entrepreneur and a
Yes.
CEO and learning and understanding how to better communicate, how to like invest in my own professional development around tech was key. And so,
Yeah.
yeah. So we built the app and it's launched in September. And
It's gorgeous. You showed it to me and I was like blown away. Just the user interface and just how stunning it is. A lot of apps are clunky and anyways, it's gorgeous, Makisha.
thank you. The other thing to note, and then I'm gonna stop talking tech because I'll talk all day about this. But the other thing to note is that we have 6 versions of the app that we're planning to release. We're on version 3. So we didn't release everything together. Like,
Yeah.
the signature features needed their own time to be built and tested and run. The first MVP we did, we tried to put everything we could in there, and it was just like you couldn't isolate problems. You were pulled in all kinds of directions to fix stuff. I just it wasn't the best way to. So understanding how to roll out technology and how to run sprints, and then the
Mhm.
last tip for anybody that wants to build technology and work with a dev shop: when you do a contract with a dev shop, get paid for the sprint being complete and tested. Don't pay for the tech to be built before it's built.
Oh, say
So,
more about that in case someone didn't understand that.
yeah, so let's say you have 6 signature features in the app.
Okay.
Um, you have a set of sprints for each signature feature to be built out. You pay when those sprints produce that feature and it's tested and running, you see it's operating. You
Okay.
because what happened with me the first time around is I paid the dev shop for time, not
Mhm.
for outcomes. And
Yeah.
so if they finish, and it's also not an incentive for them to work on deadline if you
No,
pay
that's a
them
good
for time.
point.
So
Yeah.
they say, well, we spent the last 3 months building it and it's just not done. We need more people or we need more time. So but you paid me, but now you got to
Mhm.
pay me for more time and more people. It was just horrible to learn that lesson that way, but I did. And so I'm passing it on to everybody I know.
I appreciate that. And when you say these sprints, if I was listening, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of someone listening, thinking I have this fabulous tech idea. I definitely understand the sprint idea, but what if they didn't even know where to begin and how to break it apart in those sprints? And for people like you and I that are like well, I don't want to speak for you. For me, I'm a little overzealous at times and I go all in and like to move fast. for those people, how did you learn the patience to roll? Like the thought of taking 6 things to roll out, like I would lose my mind. I think it's smart and obviously the right way to do it, but how do you navigate the go get itness of potentially your personality too?
Well, I lost a year and a half trying to do it the way
Mm,
you just described. So that was
okay.
enough, that was very sobering for me. I
Yeah, I
lost
can
a
see that.
year not doing sprints, not having the right dev shops, not knowing how to hold them accountable, not knowing how to speak the language and connect with them and interact with them. So once I got to the point where I was like, this app's not going to launch if I don't get my ish together and,
Yeah,
and do this the right way. And I found a
got it.
coach and I found a CTO who sat me down like, no, that's not how you do this. That's not how we go and do this unless you want to lose. This was her sobering moment for me when she was like,
Yes.
you want to have another year and a half of doing this and not get your results. I was like, nope. What
I'll do it your way.
Show me what to do. What do I need to watch, read?
I'm ready. I'm ready. How did you find your coach? Because I think there's a lot of people who need a woman like who you have. And I don't know if she has enough space to take everyone on. So how did you go about finding her? Because she sounds like she's been a godsend to you all.
Yeah, I'm not spitting that information out, but I do think that what led me to her is my network.
Okay.
So I have been working with Techstars founders, co-founders were investing and interested and supportive of the first MVP.
Okay.
And this is important to note. Like you have investors or people who are supporting you. Sure, the checks help, but what has been invaluable is the people they lead me to when I'm in trouble or trying to figure something out.
Yeah. And you
It's,
obviously are asking for help because I think a lot of people are nervous to ask for help to those people. So good for you that you're willing to say like, I need some help.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything, but I would strongly recommend that you learn how to have conversations that are real with your investors where you can tell them where you're struggling and where you need other types of resources besides money because they want to see you win too.
Yeah.
And so they are not stupid. They know that this stuff isn't just going to flow so easy and so yeah, definitely don't be afraid to use your social capital and your power network to get to the resources you need. So when I was having trouble, I just was telling everybody that I was talking to in my network, and this one guy said, I know who you need. I know what you need to do. And that's happened more than once, not just with the app, but in various things in the business of building it out. Yeah. I mean,
Well,
that's
and I
how I
think
found True Space through you.
yes. Well, and I think it's so counterintuitive, right? Because I think that there is this pressure to always look like you have it together or like, yeah, my company's killing it. We're doing amazing. Things are perfect, right? But in reality, that's actually off-putting and does the exact opposite of what you need.
Yeah. It's in my, I want to figure out a way to be one of the evangelists that share the good message that none of us know what the hell we're doing.
Ain't that the truth? And I like the term flawsome. Like I am deeply flawed,
Exactly.
deeply
I
flawed.
love that. I haven't heard that. I like
Oh
that.
yeah, I don't know who I stole it from, but I definitely stole it from someone. I am deeply flawed, but I also think even with all my flaws and mess and, lack of whatever, I still think I'm kind of awesome at times.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think the more we tell that story, the more others will have the confidence to get after it and raise 1.2 million if they need to or want to and launch this amazing app. So you obviously are a community builder. Well, pause. I haven't been doing a good job with the comments. Your Facebook group, you paired your platform with ours, and so I can't see who's saying it, but your people who are listening are saying amazing comments. I love that they call them Makishaisms. Community first and let technology power it up. That's a Makishaism. We need to put it on like coffee mugs, t-shirts. Someone else, I wish I could call out their name, said, yay, keep it authentic. And that's what makes us human. So thank you for those comments. Love all of you, even though we don't know who's saying it. Your community loves you. And I do think that it's a lot about how you show up and that you pour into people. And I just think that speaks volumes about what you're doing, how you're doing it. And building a community in real life is definitely different than building a tech platform. What have you learned from like a biz dev and marketing and like getting that thing off the ground. Because look, I remember at Rise Collaborative, we had an in-person space. And then when COVID hit, we launched a digital platform. And I was like, oh, it's gonna be the same. I can do this. I did it already. And while there are similarities, there were definitely some learning in there and some things that I was like, whoo, didn't realize that. So any of those moments for you as you've launched this amazing digital platform?
Yeah, so that's so good. And one day I want to reverse this coffee and interview you about Rise, but because you killed it on like getting like you say, one coffee at a time, you killed it. But Sistahbiz, first of all, is the dopest community out there of Black women entrepreneurs. Like, I mean, just the dopest. Like, and we're authentic and we're there for each other. And we got business besties who connect outside of the structured hours that we provide. And people are in different cities, you know, kind of rounding up their delegation, doing work together and supporting each other. And we have tenets, like we have principles and values that we try to live by in terms of how we interact with each other. And we are committed to buying from each other, referring business to each other, and handling business conflict in an ethical way and in a kind way. Does it always happen? I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we never have drama or problems or anything like that. You got a community with hundreds of women, there's going to be some drama. But how we deal with that drama and how we prepare and commit to protecting our space by trying to do it in the best way possible. But then, you know, you coming at it from the standpoint of like you're bringing all your traumas with you. I was just talking to one of our members the other day. We were sitting out at lunch and I was like, you bring your trauma with you to that meeting when you're showing out. Like, your trauma, you sit your trauma right here. And I sat my purse down and I was like it was the trauma. I was like, you sit your wounds, leave my wounds right here. Now, what you got to say to us?
It's so scary true. It's not even funny.
And so then she says to me, she says, when I sit the bag down making a joke, we're laughing. And she was like, yeah. And she was like, I think there's something so symbolically beautiful about the fact that that's a designer bag that you just sat down next to you. And you're calling it the wounds, because wounds tend to look pretty, you know?
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
and they're not, and they're getting in the way of stuff. And so,
Yes.
but
Oh my God,
anyway,
I love that.
yeah, I think that it's just about being intentional about how we're going to move and how we're going to treat each other and how we're going to recognize and extend grace to each other, because we are a marginalized community that
Yes.
experiences workplace and racial trauma on a daily basis. And so we are going to bring some of that into our business transactions, and we are learning. And so, but are we going to show up and do our work so that we can all succeed? And so that the collective whole wins? Absolutely. And that's the biggest work of Sistahbiz in terms of seeing the community grow over the years and the successes that I've been like really relentless about trying to protect that space and keep us committed to how we treat each other and interact with each other and what that looks like. One of our tenets is everybody eats. And so just having things like that, like when you're in a transaction, don't be that girl that's always taking. Pour into this community, pour into your business bestie, pour into others. And so I watch for that when women come into the community. Are you a taker, or are you also pouring into others, as well as don't go to the other side too and then never receive and be too scared to ask and never allow anyone to pour into you? And so reciprocity and everybody eats is like an example of a tenet that we make sure we try to monitor and that we put into practice. And just operationalizing everything that we do is something that I've been really tried to be intentional about and still learning. Like, it's not perfect. I'm not perfect. Our women aren't perfect, but we're just trying to do the best we can so that we all benefit from, and our community and our families benefit from the work we're doing, the legacy work we're doing, the curse breaking work that we're doing.
It's so good. I'm like, what question do I want to ask? Because I'm so speechless by what you're saying. I still can't get over the purse thing. Like that's amazing, because we carry our trauma around, and okay, I got to focus. Bring it back, Stacey. So, so you have hundreds of powerful, impressive women in your community, and I know that this app and you have the ability to have thousands, 10,000s, 100,000. Like, I don't put that beyond you in any way, shape, or form. And, with anything, as you grow, there are growing pains, and everything you're saying is brilliant and definitely is important. at the hundreds level. How do you keep that and keep that feeling and keep that as you have thousands and 10,000s and hundreds of thousands of amazing people all over the globe, not just country, because I believe this could be a global thing if you wanted it to be. So
Yeah.
how do you do that?
Yeah, a few things. The structures that exist are supposed to maintain small group experiences. So as we grow, there's not, so like for instance, our current KPI labs, where our data labs where women come in and examine their data and do analysis work and talk through strategies. I'm never going to let that get to a place where a KPI lab is more than 10 to 15 people.
Smart.
It's just that we'll add more labs. And so you always maintain small group experiences. And so that's an example of just like a technical structure that could
Yep.
help keep intimacy. And then, of course, there's the cultural element that we shared. And so in onboarding, we have our oath in our video, and so we let people know like these are the things you're agreeing to in terms of the way you'll carry yourself. And so like the onboarding experience, really communicating who we are and how we move, and that we expect that you would move that way too, is really important. And then also like training and development of our service providers. We're rolling out our service provider network this year in an official way, where we'll have a boot camp. And that boot camp is going to allow us to do a vetting process with B2B service providers like accountants, attorneys. And in that process, we're going to do a few things. We're going to make sure that they understand, like they get some relationship skill training to kind of navigate business relationships according to our standards, customer service standards, work with them on their capacity so that they can take the number of referrals that would be coming our way. And also just create community and peer consultancy within that service provider network so that everybody is aligned in how we move and how we operate, how we service each other, and then also position ourselves like help. Like I want to be able to refer you, sis, but you got to have your stuff together. So like, those very real conversations, yes, but also giving the tools to support someone who doesn't have that capacity yet, and say you're not there yet to be vetted and referred, but we're gonna get you there. And just so like not leaving anybody behind, like get my Harriet Tubman on. I never lost a passenger. Like just really have that mindset, and so that people know that we got your back, but you got to do the work, and you got to understand that having these standards benefits all of us, so that we can all make money and all grow healthy, successful businesses. And so those types of things help us to create a culture and an experience where we maintain the intimacy. Now, when I get to 1,000 members, I'll add me for another coffee conversation. I might have some new stuff to tell you about, but that's the thing.
Well, the thing I've always noticed about you is you're so intentional, right? You're not willy-nilly just flying by the seat of your pants. Not that you can't get stuff done and done fast and well, but you're intentional, you're thoughtful, and you do the work, right? And you also are willing to have the harder conversations. I think a lot of people can learn from you for a multitude of reasons, but I think a lot of people are scared to have the harder, tougher conversations. And it seems like that's something that you've always been able to do, or that's something you're willing to do. And I think that really is part of your success, if I do say so, from where I'm sitting. I don't know. Do you feel like that has played a role as well? I don't want to speak for you. It's things I admire and have seen about you.
I think that the younger version of me, that got me in a lot of trouble because but then the evolved person who has had therapy and relationship coaching, that person has pulled together the willingness, ability, and actually like the lack of tolerance for not having candor. Like I just don't do that. Like we're gonna keep it all the way a buck. We're gonna address the elephant in the living room because I want us to have real joy and real happiness. And I'm not putting lipstick on any pigs. And so I value that. That's just my core value, transparency and authenticity. But what I had to learn to balance it with is really that emotional intelligence of how somebody needs to receive information. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to dress everything up the way someone else needs. There's still the community will tell you all day long that I keep it 100 and I'm not for everybody. But I do make more of an effort now as I've evolved and gotten older to try to think through the best way to communicate to get the message across and to have the types of relationships and outcomes you want.
Yeah, no, I think that's so true. And I remember in my younger days, I struggled with that a little bit too. And I was trying to be someone I wasn't. And my therapist finally said, Stacey, you don't have to be someone different. You just have to think about shepherding your impact. And
Mm.
that for me was so helpful because, when I was a CEO, I wasn't understanding how when I showed up intense or I showed up stressed, how that was landing for my team and freaking them out. Where instead just, shepherding my impact and saying, hey guys, I'm really stressed. I'm really cranked up. This is not about you. This is just about where I am today. So if I seem a little, go get itness, don't panic. And I thought that was really an aha for me. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that
No,
your
that's good.
community is showing up, by the way. Like I know because I don't see their names that this is everyone from your community. And I just want to say, as I already knew, you have the most amazing supportive community, and they're killing it. So love the engagement to your community. Oh,
Yeah.
someone said, okay, yes. Oh, focus, Stacey. A couple more questions. I could talk to you all day, first of all. You're a joy to talk with. And I think what you're doing really matters. And as you're thinking about your growth and your expansion, I know you and I have talked about, look, you're going to be everywhere and you are in a lot of cities. But as you think about your growing plans and your strategies, any cities that catch your eye, that if you're listening, cities you need to keep an eye out for Makisha, what cities are you thinking about?
Yes. So one of the ways that we target cities, if you will, if we even call them targeting, is that I tend to pay attention to where there's already an organic presence of Sistahbiz members who are champions for the network. And so right now, our Dallas delegation is popping. So if you're in Texas, check us out. St. Louis.
Yes, St. Louis, if you're listening or watching, I St. Louis needs Sistahbiz. Yes.
Yeah, Dr. Tiffany, our HR coach, is out there, and she is a former cohort and one of our champion members, and she's dope. So check out HR Tailor Made if you're in St. Louis and you need HR support, or anywhere else, quite frankly. And then I would say also California, we have a presence there in the San Francisco Bay Area. And New York is that's my hometown. So always on my radar, East Coast, and then the DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia. So those are places where I see a presence. Florida is starting to, we're starting to see some presence, Sistahbiz presence there. But I just go where I'm called. I go where the women are that are saying, we want to do this work, we want to do it with you. And that's how it works. So even if you didn't hear your city or your state, but you're ready to do this, give me a call.
Well, and speaking of traveling in different cities, just last week you were in California winning Entrepreneur of the Year. That's pretty incredible. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. The National Black MBA Association honored me with that, the Bay Area chapter. So Bay Area chapter is actually one chapter of the year. Just side note, shout out to National
Okay.
Bay chapter, but Bay Area chapter. But yeah, it was amazing. It's
That's
amazing.
so cool. So if someone's listening, hopefully my St. Louis folks are going to tune in because we need Sistahbiz in St. Louis and all over. But I know I have a decent following of St. Louis folks because I was born and raised there. If someone's listening and they're curious about Sistahbiz and want to know more, what would you tell them?
Yeah, if you want to know more about Sistahbiz, we're at Sistah.biz, and it's Sistah with an AH, not an ER. Sistah.biz, and you can actually log into our app by going to app.sistah.biz/sign up. And so you can get 14 days free and check that out. The app is for Black women entrepreneurs who are looking to exceed or move past the six-figure line and prepare for growth and scale. And then if you are not a Black woman founder, but you want to support the work we do, or you have a business serving organization where you need curriculum or coaches, a diverse suite of coaches and culturally responsive curriculum, we also do that work outside of the network. So holler at us.
Well, I love Michelle Stockman out of St. Louis, who has an organization called Women Empowering Women. It's an amazing organization. And Michelle is a lovely human and well-connected. She commented because she's in the St. Louis area. She said, I'd love to talk in the St. Louis area. I already am thinking of great connections. So yay, Michelle, for tuning in, always being a champion for other women. That makes me incredibly happy. Well, every podcast has to have their signature question. And so I shouldn't say stole. I was inspired by Sarah Blakely. If you don't know who Sarah Blakely is, she's the founder of Spanx, and you often see her on social media drinking coffee and having fun coffee mugs. So let me see so if you were to write a message on your coffee mug to any aspiring leader, what would it say?
So it would say, just show up.
Ooh. I feel like it doesn't need an explanation, but I can't resist asking you to say more behind up. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I work out at Orange Theory. I love Orange Theory Fitness workouts. And one of the things I always tell people about like how I'm able to go regularly is that I just show up. Like I don't think about the workout. I don't like scare myself out of the workout by thinking that it's going to be so hard or that it's cold outside or anything like that. If I could just get in the car and just go and show up, they'll take care of the rest. And that's how the universe is. Just show up. It's going to take care of the rest. And not every workout is going to be good. Not every day in the business is going to be good. But over time, if you keep showing up, your body does look better, right? Even if you have a bad workout, your body does look better. And you still have bad workouts when your body's in shape. Like you have days where you show up and it's not as great, but just keep showing up because over time, it's going to show you're going to be a different person, an evolved person. Your business is going to be a different business and an evolved business. So just show up.
Oh, I knew this was going to be an amazing episode. Thank you, Makisha. You are a joy. What you're doing matters, and I'm just so thankful to know you. And look forward to hearing from you when you're at 1,000. And hopefully, this will get you a few hundred more.
Oh,
Thanks, everyone.
all right.
Bye.